Good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are in the world. Welcome to today's webinar on automated error reporting with SmartAssembly. My name is Leila Lotfi. I'm on the SmartAssembly team here at Redgate. And with me is Alex Davis, the lead developer for SmartAssembly, who will be presenting today's webinar.
Hello.
The webinar should take about 25-30 minutes maximum, with a Q&A session at the end. In order to provide a clear line, you'll be on mute so we can avoid background noises. But we do welcome your questions throughout the webinar. So if you have a question, please type it into your GoToWebinar console on your right. And at the end of the demo, we'll read them out and answer them. So please do type them in. I'll give you a quick 2-minute introduction to SmartAssembly. To put things into context, and then I'll hand you over to Alex for the demo. So what's SmartAssembly? SmartAssembly essentially does two things at the moment. It's a .NET obfuscator and an error reporting tool. And in this demo, we will focus solely on the error reporting functionality. When we talk about error reporting, we're talking about a mechanism that collects detailed information when an exception takes place in the field on an end-user's machine. And what's brilliant about it is that it's very straightforward for the end user. All they have to do is click Send Error Report when they get the error reporting dialog. And it's very time-saving for the developer who doesn't have to go through time-consuming email exchanges with the end user, trying to get all the information that he needs about the context of the exception. He gets it all in one report. That means the stack trace, values of all the local variables, and if you use the SDK, you can pretty much get anything you want from it. That could be a log file, and Alex will demonstrate how to do that in the demo. So with no further ado, I'll pass you over to Alex.
Okay guys, we just need to switch over the screen. Give us a second. It's the first one of these we've done. So hopefully you should now be able to see my screen. Let me just close up my messenger. Okay, so what I'll start off with is a really basic introduction to error reporting. We'll just run through it to show you exactly what it does, the sort of workflow from beginning to end, and then we'll do some more advanced things. So I'll start off with opening up Visual Studio, and I'll just show you the basic way of using it. So I've already prepared a little Windows Forms application, and all it does is that when its single button, it only has one button, gets clicked, it throws an exception. So obviously if I start that in the debugger and press the button, the debugger will catch the exception. But I'm not really concerned about what happens in the debugger. We're talking about when we deploy the application to the customer or to the end user. So if I get that executable that it created and just run it, the kind of thing that your end user is going to see when the button is clicked is this kind of .NET error dialog. Perhaps you've implemented one that looks a little bit nicer yourself, but fundamentally it's this kind of thing. And then what you've got to do is hope that the end user copies the stack trace here and emails it into you, and then you've got to realize that the stack trace isn't actually enough for you to fix the bug, something like that, and then maybe your application will crash out and you're done with it. So now I'm going to show you the SmartAssembly alternative, the good way of doing it. So I'll start up SmartAssembly. So SmartAssembly, it's two tools. It's an obfuscator and it does this error reporting thing. It does both. And the way that it does both is by taking in an input assembly, say my Windows Forms application 1.exe, and it produces a really similar output assembly with injected code, or in the case of obfuscation, obfuscated code, which does a similar but different thing. So the way that it works in terms of me doing it now is that I need to choose the input assembly. So I'm going to browse for that. And, there we go. There's the assembly that I just made in Visual Studio. And now what it wants me to do is choose where to save the output assembly. So I'm just going to stick that on my desktop. Right, so SmartAssembly, like I say, it's not just this error reporting, it's an obfuscator as well, and it has all of these useful obfuscating features, useful features just in general, like dependencies merging, so you don't have to have so many DLLs floating around, pruning for cutting out code that isn't actually used by your program, and then obviously obfuscation and control flow obfuscation and all the standard stuff that you would expect in a top quality obfuscator. But we're going to skip over that today in this webinar because what we really want to talk about is the error reporting. So this is actually, this copy of SmartAssembly that I'm using here is actually a pre-release version of SmartAssembly 6, which isn't available to the public. Well, it is as an early access program, but it's not the released version yet. That's largely just because the database that Redgate uses is converted to SmartAssembly 6 now, so I wanted to show you some of our own error reports. One side effect of that is that you can see the feature usage reporting, which is a new feature that we're looking at doing, what we've done in SmartAssembly 6. Lets you, instead of seeing when an error happened, it just tells you generally what's happening during the end user's session with your program. But we'll skip over that as well for now because it's not released yet. We'll do error reporting. So just the basic thing first, turn it on. And you can see it's got lots of settings. But I'm going to skip over most of those for now and just hit build. We'll come back to them in a second. So there we go. On my desktop, it's created that output assembly. So this is like the input one, but it's instrumented, it's injected by SmartAssembly, so it does the error reporting. So if I let Layla run that, so I'm pretending I'm the developer and Layla is the end user, so I'm giving Layla the mouse now.
Okay, so I'm opening up the application, and it's a WinForm application with a button, so I'm going to click on it, and I'm getting an error reporting dialog.
Cool, so if you want to do what you would normally do as a good end user and send in the error report.
I'm a very good end user, Alex, so I'm going to send my error report. There you are. So click OK. My application is crashed as I sent the error report out.
Okay, so now I'm going to go in and see if I can find that error report that Layla has just sent me. So what I do to do that is to click on this link on the left, View Error Reports, and it gives me a sort of inbox thing, and it automatically fills up with lots of stuff. So this is all, it's done via a web service that Redgate will host for you. But if you want to, you can host the web service yourself. That's quite easy as well. So we can see this exception. It looks a little bit like an email inbox, but obviously it's full of exceptions. We can double-click it to see that individual exception that Layla sent me. And this has got all sorts of interesting information that you might want to know about when your application crashed, what Windows version it was, what .NET version it was, where it was, even the user host address that sent it in, so that's Redgate's IP address there. And then the bit that you're really interested in is the stack trace at the bottom. Obviously, it has all sorts of stuff that's not very interesting, system Windows forms, but the interesting stack frames, the ones that are actually in your code are bold, and that's because you can open them up. And inside them, it shows you all of the values of the local variables, like Layla said earlier, which is, I find this so valuable compared to just having a stack trace. Say, for example, here, let me just open up that location in the code in Visual Studio. There are two parameters here, and I might not know which object sent the button click event. Okay, so this is a poor example, but you know what I mean. So I've got the sender variable there. I can open it up, and I can see it was this system Windows Forms button sent the event. That kind of useful thing. Okay, so now what I'd like to do is go into a slightly more advanced topic. So you know the basic workflow, what kind of thing we're doing. So what I want to show you now is a little bit more about the error reporting inbox that we have here. So it's got all of these filters across the top, and they're obviously not of great use when I've only got one exception so far. So what I'm going to do is, this is actually a copy of SmartAssembly Professional, so that allows me to connect to a SQL server which stores shared error reports for everyone in Redgate. So I'm just going to go into Options and connect to a SQL server. Choose the Redgate one where we put all of our reports. So almost every Redgate product has this in now. We just found it so useful that it spread through the company like wildfire. So I connect, uses that, and now I can see the shared Redgate inbox. So there's a load of crashes in SQL prompt there and stuff like that. And you can see that it's busy downloading a lot of new reports, because we have, especially with feature usage reporting, an awful lot of reports coming in now. So let's explore these a little bit. Let's stick to SQL prompt. That was the first one that came up. I think that's just because that's where the most recent report was. So I can choose between all of the different projects that Redgate have got. Choose SQL prompt. Operation timed out. Maybe the web service is unhappy at the moment. Okay, so I'm just looking at the SQL prompts project now. I can choose to categorize by build. So if I happen to know that a recent release was that one, then we can see whether there are any bugs just in that release. But my favorite feature here is the Categorize Reports checkbox over here. I'll just let you see what it does. So previously you had all of these reports in chronological order, but you can see that most of the time you have many reports for an individual bug. So we've got a whole load of these on user preference changed, null reference exceptions here, and there's probably some more. If you look a bit further down, you'll find them all over the place. Yeah, I saw one halfway down there. Lost it again, no matter. So I categorize the reports, and it just shows you the individual bugs. So there we go, null reference exception, on user preference changed. And this is one of the biggest reasons why error reporting is so useful, is that it categorizes everything like this for you. We've actually implemented a system using the SmartAssembly SDK that pulls in all of the bugs that we have into our bug tracking system. We use Jira for bug tracking, Jira, however you pronounce it, and it does a really similar thing, categorizing it into the separate bugs. I really enjoy that. Okay, so what I wanted to show you, so I did practice, I'll come clean, I did practice this earlier today. I just want to show you the sort of workflow of fixing a bug that SmartAssembly has given you a report for. So let's say I'm working on the anti-profiler Visual Studio add-in at the moment. So I'll just undo the categorization so you can see how useful it is. And that's the anti-profiler Visual Studio add-in is this menu here, basically. So we've got a load of reports come in at various times. The one that I was looking for, I read it earlier today, so it's gone down into the red bit. Let's ignore that. Markers on red. Pretend I didn't do that. Refresh. Where's it gone? There we go. Excellent. If I categorize the reports, I can see that my report that I was planning to fix, this invalid COM object exception, is the most commonly reported thing. It's had 27 reports recently. Well, 27 reports since the product was produced. We've only had this separate add-in since July. So I can open any one of these. They tend to be almost exactly the same as each other, and see the details of the exception. You can see that the user that had it was on Windows 7. I can see that post-stress, which I probably shouldn't be showing you, I'm not sure. And I can see the stack trace. So earlier I checked out the source code of this ANTS Visual Studio add-in, so let's just open that up. And then what I can do is find the first stack frame that interests me. So this is the first one that's actually my code. Right-click it and say, open with Visual Studio. So in this case, we'll open with that Visual Studio 2008 that I just opened with the AntiVS add-in code. So let's analyze a little bit about what this bug is. It looks like there's a COM object. It's been separated from its underlying RCW. Can't be used. I have no idea what that means. So let's see which line it was that it opened it up on. Line 99 here. So what it's done, what my code has done here is it's made a variable. It's got it out of Visual Studio's application objects. I know that this is something that involves a lot of COM and is sometimes a little bit flaky. Visual Studio will sometimes just give you invalid objects. So I'll have a look at this and I'll try to work out whether it really needs to be done. Can I just catch the exception? Do I need to deal with the error case? So it's signing up to this event, solution events on opened is the handler. There it is. I know that just adds some error handling. In fact, it adds SmartAssembly code. Initialize solution, and all it does is set a Boolean. It doesn't look very important to me. I reckon when that happens, we can just catch it. So let's just stick in a try catch. That'll probably do us. What was the name of the exception? Invalid COM object exception. Great. Okay, so without having to get the reproduction, I could easily see there, well, in this case, most of what I used was the stack trace, but I could have looked at the COM object and tried to see what's inside it, but it's a COM object. You can't really see what's inside those most of the time. Fix the bug. That's not going to happen again. Everyone's happy. And in fact, I should probably check that in. Not now. Later. Okay, so the next thing that I want to do is have a look at some more advanced customization of the error reporting dialog. So this is the dialog that your users get when they send in an error to you. So let me just go back to my own private database so I don't have all of Redgate's errors getting in our way. Go back to the project settings for my little WinForms application that I was looking at earlier, and I'll show you around some of the other settings. So these are the settings here for the error reporting. So the first thing that you've got to choose is which template you want to use. SmartAssembly comes with a few templates. And the template, it's basically just the error reporting dialog, but we don't say dialog because one of them is the without UI one, so it's got a no dialog, so we call it a template instead. So this is, well, you've already seen the with UI English one. We could use the French UI one. So what I've done there is I've just changed the settings of the French UI, hit build, and now when we hit the button, we have a nice French dialog box. Correct French, Lena? Close enough. What other things have we got? Like I said, we can do without UI. So it's really flexible. Let me just build it without the UI. This one's really dangerous. I wouldn't use this one unless it's just sort of internal use if you have internal end users, because, well, who knows how many error reports could just be sent in. So I've clicked the button there. Nothing happens. There's no dialog box with this one, but if I click the button a few times, then they all come in. So the automatic reporting one is useful, but it's a bit scary. And then there's more advanced ones. So this one lets you collect email addresses. But the pattern here you might be spotting is that you can more or less do anything with these error reporting dialogues, and that's what I'm about to get to, is that you can just customize them however you like by writing the code yourself. So let me just show you the email address one. Davies send in the error report, and then your developer at the other end, when they look at it, gets to see, which is the most recent one, it's probably this one, gets to see an email address there, and you can send an email to them. It's all very easy. Yeah, but the interesting thing is not the standard ones. I try to keep using the standard ones when I can, but if you need to, you just need to switch down to this custom template. Let me just go through the rest of the settings before we look at the custom template, because the custom template's a bit involved. So these two are more or less just cosmetic. They're the name. Let me just show you beside. They're the name which appears here, and the name of the company which appears here. This one here is for specifying the name as it appears up here for your own purposes. That's why it's separate, just in case you wanted to give it a code name or something. You can ask SmartAssembly to send you an email. So this email is actually sent from our web service, so you don't need to have any services running yourself. An email every time one of your end users sends in a report. So if you put your email address in there, you get that. So if you only have a few error reports sent in per week, then it'd be really good to have an email when they happen, so that you get reminded to look at them. And then you also have the option of whether you think it's best to just close the application when it crashes, or whether you should just continue. Like I usually use always continue, because I know that the kind of applications I write, when an exception happens, it tends to be fine to carry on anyway. Okay, so let's have a look at the custom templates. So you specify a custom template by browsing for a DLL there, which contains the custom template. So I'm just going to make one of those. So where we start is from the samples which are provided in the SmartAssembly installation. So I'm going to have a look in the program files directory. In SmartAssembly, SDK, and here is some samples. So let's start off with the standard one and make some changes to it. So I'm just going to copy it here, and then I'll show you what's inside it. So this is just a standard C# project, which you can change the code in. So I'll open that up in Visual Studio. Okay, so the way that this is hooked in is starting here. All you have to do, well, you'll start from a sample, so it's very easy to know what you have to do. You just start modifying it. But in case you're interested, SmartAssembly looks for the class in this DLL, which extends unhandled exception handler, which is from a SmartAssembly reference. And then basically this method is called onReportException, and you get a report exception event args. And then this particular example goes on to make a form and do clever stuff using the form. So let's have a look at the form itself. Oh, I don't want to open it in the designer. Let's open the code. So we can do, this is just the code for the dialog box. We can do absolutely anything we want. Say maybe there aren't enough users sending in reports, so maybe we could make the send report button a bit bigger, and then perhaps they'll send in more reports. All the strings are kept in this file, so perhaps we want to be a little bit more dramatic about what's going on, be a little bit more truthful about why it's happened. Okay, so all we need to do at that point, we build it. It wants us to make a solution, that doesn't matter. And then we go back to SmartAssembly, and it was asking us to choose the DLL. So we're going to go in to where it was just built, find the debug directory, get the DLL, everything goes green, and we're ready to go. So obviously you can, once you've modified this code, you can put it in your source control, add it to your build system, and then just have your SmartAssembly project always point at it. Okay, so that's built the version using the custom template. So if I run it now, make the exception happen. Great, so my changes have been done correctly. Please tell Alex about this crash. Terrible software. Button's a bit bigger, it's gone off the bottom. Oh well. I need to go back to the drawing board and design it a bit better. But you see that basically anything is possible. You can change it in whatever way you like. And all of the example error reporters that we provide in this drop-down box are available as samples. So you can use any of those as a starting point, along with some others. Some useful things that you can do with custom error reporters is actually change the behavior of the report itself rather than just the dialogue. So the way to do that is using this report exception event args that you're given. So let's just use IntelliSense to see what E can do. So that's an interesting one. The first one, add custom properties. So you can add interesting things that you want to feed with the error report back to yourself from the end user's computer. So what might we want? Let's just find a good value. Environment has got loads of things that are usually interesting. Environment, machine name, that'd be interesting. So perhaps you want to know the name of the machine. I'll just give that a name. So if I build it now, I'll just use Control-Shift-B, run it through SmartAssembly again, and run it again, send in the error reports. Oops, that was a bit quick off the mark there. Let's do it again. Oh, there's another one running, isn't there? Here we go. Send in the error reports. Let's go back to Advanced UI. Then if I look at the other end, the most recent one should have, did I get the most recent one? 1628, is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe there were two at 1628. Send it again. Not sure what happened there. Maybe I cancelled the sending before it was finished. Oh no, this is, where's my custom property? Maybe I forgot to build it. Build. So there's a really quick debug cycle. You just change the code, run a build again, forget to close it again. This button here does the same as just double clicking on it. Go on, you're going to work this time, aren't you? No. Rubbish. It worked this morning. I'll try adding something else. So, say for example, one thing that Layla quite likes me to tell people about is log files. So say we had our program writing a log file to the desktop. I know it's a bit contrived, but there. 1528 started, for example. So another thing that E can do, attach file. Again, you have to do a name, log name, and typing what I'm saying, and then you have to just give the location of the file. Go. Log.txt. I have a bad feeling about this. I reckon it's not going to work again. If anyone can spot what I've done wrong, then please let me know. So, build my custom error report. Oh, I know what I've done wrong. There we go. I changed it back to the standard template. So, okay, changing it back to the custom template again. Once again, I forget to close it. definitely, there we go, definitely the custom template this time. Send in my report, and then at the other end, I look for it. It appears, it's got a little paperclip to say that it's got a file attached to it. There's my custom property, my machine name, and there's my attached file. So each of those was only like one line to add to it. Something you might want to do maybe is take a screenshot. I had a look on the internet earlier. It takes about 4 lines of code to take a screenshot of your screen at a point in time. You just then attach that file, and you've got an error reporter that can take screenshots. Anything else that you think of, you can just, as long as you can write the code for it, you can do it. So I think we're just about done with the demo. I think our time's up, so we'll hand over back to Layla, who will sort out your questions and stuff.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Alex, for the demo. Just bear with me a second. I'm going to clear my screen for you. Right. Okay, so before we go over to Q&A, I'm quickly going to run through what the next steps are. And if you're interested in finding out more, for instance, about SmartAssembly, you can go and download a 14-day free trial from the website. So that's pretty functional. So I really urge you to play around with the tool to have a feel of what it can do for you and your application. And if you'd like to talk to someone about the tool, just drop an email to John Hudson. His email address is on the screen. And if you're interested in buying a SmartAssembly, John will be offering all webinar registrants a 10% discount till February 2006. So just contact him, quote the code, and that's about it, really. So I'd like to thank you for attending, and thank you, Alex, again for presenting. And now we'll end with a Q&A session. So again, if you type any questions you have into the GoToWebinar panel on the right-hand side of your screen, we'll attempt to answer them now. So I'm going to hand it back over to Alex so you can respond to your questions properly. There you are, Alex. So I can see loads of questions coming in. That's good. So first question for you, Alex. That's one from Jafar. Jafar asked earlier, can we see non-primitive types where the exception happens?
Non-primitive, yeah. So SmartAssembly captures some small amount of non-primitive types. It doesn't try to do too much, otherwise the exception report will be enormous. What have I done? Am I trying to save the project? I don't want to close it. Okay, so for example here, this is a good example. If I open up one of the error reports that we had before and show you the things which are captured. So button here, this is a sender, sorry, this is a button. It's not a primitive type, it's an object. Inside it, it's got some fields, dialog results, and size. And those, you can see the string representation to string is called on it. But it doesn't open up any further than just one level. So yeah, you can certainly see enough that's, I've never wanted to see more inside a non-primitive type than what it gives you. It does open at one level, which is pretty much all the time just right. I hope that answers the question.
Excellent, thank you, Alex. We had another question earlier from Gregor. Gregor was asking, could you show some examples using websites rather than the Windows form application? So basically, can you add a reporting to a web application?
Yeah, sure. So this was asked by someone by email as well. I can't read the name that Charles has brought in there, but somebody.
Okay.
So what we great. So yeah, there's been a few people asking about that. So let's give it a go. I haven't prepared for this, so hopefully it'll be fine. Let's just make a new web application and try to add error reporting to it. So I might just need to concentrate. So the idea is that web applications are not quite so easy, but they're still totally possible to add reporting to. The important thing is that SmartAssembly has an API that allows you to give an exception to SmartAssembly, and then when you process that DLL, SmartAssembly will interpret that and bring it back round into the normal reporting data flow, so that SmartAssembly can pretty much report an exception from anything, although it might not be automatic. So let's set it up so that the page load throws an exception. Excellent. Okay, and then what I want to do is, if I run it, I should be able to see that throwing the exception. Hopefully. Yeah, in the debugger at least. Okay, so the trick here is that we need to do something ourselves. So I will add the reference to the SmartAssembly report exception DLL, and that's the one that lets you do more or less anything. So I just need to find it. It's in the SmartAssembly program files directory again. Report exception. There we go. Okay, then what we're going to do, and this kind of technique applies equally to web apps and anything else which doesn't sort of sit as a normal .exe file, that you want to catch an exception yourself and then give it to SmartAssembly for SmartAssembly to do the more advanced stuff for you. So I believe, there we go, there is an application error handler. Does anyone know how to catch an error from web applications? I think it's somewhere around here, but I don't know where the error is. Is it inside the event arcs? I have actually forgotten how to do this, but if you Google, say pretend that we caught the exception in here. I'm just going to declare it and pretend that it was passed to me. Pretend that I didn't write that line. Then all you would have to do is get the appropriate thing from the report. Where's my report exception DLL gone? Oh, there it is. Can I open an object browser?
There's Jack saying, I think it's server.lost.
Okay, I'll use server.lost error. Perfect. So it's exception reporting.reports. So except.
Oh, Jack's got the correct one over there.
Chain.reports. Hopefully I should get the little pop-up thingy. Perfect. Reports. And then we got the example. Where is it? Server.
Don't get lost.
Get
Error.
last error. Let's get last error. Has it got parenthesis?
Yep.
That looks good. Okay, there we go. So that's all you would have to do. Making this run will involve me knowing how to use IIS or something, but I can certainly build it for you. So I make a new project. I don't save the old one. I choose my DLL that the web forms project has created. Web application 1, bin, there it is. Set a destination, just put it inside here. It gives you a little warning saying that you have to use exception reporting.report exception manually if you expect this to work, but I already have, which is great. And another thing, this will be a use for that extremely dangerous automatic reporting without UI. So we're going to have to change to that. Because obviously we can't have your web server putting up an exception dialog box. That's not going to make anyone happy. So having done that, I think I've thought of a way around this. I just make Visual Studio not build things when I press go, and then drop the DLL over the top of the old one, that will more or less work. Don't blame me if it doesn't. Come on, go up. Come on. There we go. Drop it over the top. Replace. Press go. Okay, I don't know what that is, Visual Studio. So the debugger didn't catch anything. I reckon it's probably sent it into SmartAssembly. Fingers crossed. There we go. We have an exception.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Oh, that's a completely different exception.
No?
Whereas this is my exception, and then the web server just crashed another 3 times of its own accord. But there we go. In principle, it works, and you can use that principle and do whatever you like.
Excellent. Thank you, Alex. I've got loads of other questions here. I had, are there web-based templates so one can include SmartAssembly in an ASP.NET MVC application? That was from Rob.
So you're talking about the sort of custom error reporting templates here. This is sort of what I mentioned earlier about having to use the automatic reporting template. Because all the code that you're talking about here is running on the server side, it's not really relevant to sort of show a dialogue at that point, and there certainly isn't support for somehow showing the dialogue to the user on the client side. I don't know whether that's technically possible. If you do manage to do it, then please let me know. I can't think of a way right now, because at that point the web request has sort of exploded. I guess you could try to find the response object and oops. I know this is not in the template, but here, response. You could somehow find that response object and do response.write to write all of the sort of error dialogue of your creation and then somehow feed it back to yourself. But because it's all server side, I don't think you really need consent from the end user to send in the error report. It's more just you don't want to overload your server with sending in too many reports. So I would just use automatic reporting and then perhaps add a throttling system to the template. I know that's something that one of our SQL Monitor, which is a service rather than a web. It's web, but most of it is a service. That does a throttled version of the automatic reporting, and that seems to work very well. So I would do that with a web app.
Okay, thank you, Alex. We've got Andrew asking, can the error reporting deal with custom object properties? For example, if a custom object was passed into a method that then codes an error, could we see the properties of the passed object?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just do it for you. It's exactly the same as the way that I just showed you the contents of the button. Any object works, whether it's .NET or your own. Just open this up, so I'll just make a new methods to move the exception into there, call it. And then here we have like a custom class of some kind, so we'll just make another class. Class 3 with a int fields inside it. And then we'll just make an instance of that. And hopefully if I run that through, just build it first, you'll be able to see the class 3 and you'll be able to see the P inside it. So that's, oh, I didn't save my project, that's annoying. I'm doing it again. There we go. So open Windows Forms application, get the executable, set the destination to the desktop. turn on error reporting, to the bills. So all of this, oops, stop running. All of this has been videoed, so if I do anything too quickly, do go back and look at the video to see exactly what's done. I feel like it's useful for me to just demonstrate to prove to you that everything works. So that error report has been sent in. 46, that's probably the one. Is that the one? What have I done wrong this time? Let's build this again. Close it. Run it through bills. Yeah, I think I know what I did wrong that time. I was suspicious that it had an attached file. It shouldn't have had an attached file. Okay, there we go. This is the one. Method 2 has a class 3 in it called C3. This is a completely user-defined type. I can open it up. I can see its base class, and I can see the field inside it, P, which I defined as P3. Hopefully that proves to you that, yep, you can see anything.
Excellent, thank you. I've got a question from Rob asking, is it possible to use SmartAssembly from a command line so it can be integrated into continuous integration builds?
Absolutely, yeah, it has a command line mode. My favorite way of using it is to pass in a .sa proj file, which is the project that you would save if you press save now. So I would set everything up in the UI, save the sa proj file, that kind of thing. And then you just give the command line the sa proj file and it'll do it. You can customize the input and the output assembly. There's also a MS build task, so if you're modifying your CS proj file or your DB proj file to do anything else, then it's most convenient to add the call to SmartAssembly using MS build script in your CS proj file. That's how I always do it. It's even easier. It's less prone to breaking than a command line is.
Oh, we've got a very interesting question here from Andrew, who says, do you see an unobfuscated variable names in the error reporting if an app is already obfuscated?
Absolutely, yeah. So this was the original reason that error reporting was written, was to get around this. So I'm just going to obfuscate Windows Forms application. Hopefully my class 1 was private. Yep, this is all private. So if I look back at it in Reflector, which is no doubt not installed. Yeah, Reflector's not installed. But you have to trust me that, oh no, it is installed. Excellent. There we go. That class 1 and key have been thoroughly obfuscated. They're completely gone. Nevertheless, when you send in the error report and then go to look at it later, it's exactly the same as all the others. The obfuscation is completely undone. Apart from the toString representation just here, where it maintains exactly what the toString method gave you, because you may find that useful, but all the information that's here is also over here. So.
Thanks, Alex. We've got David asking, is it possible to combine this tool with Log4net or Enterprise Library Logger?
So in terms of combining with a logger, perhaps what you wanted to do was send in the log file with the exception reports, and I've already shown you that that's perfectly possible. In terms of perhaps writing unobfuscated error reports to log files, no, that's not possible because obviously at the client side, the unobfuscated names aren't available. So it always has to be reported back to the server before you can look at the unobfuscated report.
Okay. I've got Chris asking, can you hook up SA to Dynamics CRM?
I'm afraid I don't know what Dynamics CRM is. But, do you know, Charles? Oh, it's Microsoft CRM. So I don't know whether it's a web app or...
I don't know enough about it architecturally to know. We will have a look at that.
So would you like, is it that you would like to see when someone sends in an error report with an email address perhaps, you'd like to be able to correlate those error reports to the people that sent them in within the CRM system? And that's entirely to do with the extensibility of dynamic CRM. SmartAssembly certainly has SDK which is capable of that kind of thing, because we do it. we do that little notifications in our CRM system when someone sends in an error report with an email address in it.
Okay. Right, let's see. We've got Andrew asking, does the SmartAssembly version of the SmartAssembly affect performance?
Slightly, yes. Inevitably, the performance is lowered. So the obfuscation features, I won't really mention, but various obfuscation features have various performance impacts. They're all below about 50%. Error reporting is a more interesting one. It most of the time has almost zero performance impacts, and that's because what it actually does to your methods is adds try-catch blocks around every single method. So when no exception is thrown, those are very quick. Try-catch blocks have almost no overhead. But if you happen to be using a lot of exceptions in the sort of the main bottlenecks of your code, if you throw exceptions for control flow or something like that, then it can have quite a bit of performance impact. So I just tell you, don't use exceptions for control flow. That's horribly bad practice. And one or two programs within Redgate do that a little bit, and I have a go at the development teams when they tell them to improve performance. But yeah, it's negligible as long as you don't use exceptions to control flow.
Excellent. I've got another quick question here. I realize we're coming to the end of this webinar. We've got just a few minutes left. But Rob has just posted to say, can you exclude classes methods from the obfuscator to avoid reflection-based invocation?
Absolutely. You've got two choices. You can do it using using the UI. So there's an exclusions button here. Just lets you choose things to exclude. Or you can do it using custom attributes. So you just stick an attribute. You have to reference an assembly of ours which contains a lot of attributes. And then there's an attribute called do not obfuscate. Put that on your class and it won't be obfuscated.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you very much, Alex. If there is any questions that is remaining unanswered, I'll write those down and I'll get back to you directly, or I'll get somebody at least to get back to you between today or tomorrow. So this webinar is going to be recorded, so you'll get a link to it. I think it's either going to be tomorrow or after tomorrow, so you get an email with a link to it if you want to watch it again, or if you want to pass it around your team or amongst your peers. Thank you again so much, Alex, for the demo, for answering all the questions.
No problem at all.
Thank you to you for attending, and I wish you all a good day and goodbye.